Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen. Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. I was on vacation last week, y'all, and did not record anything. So I am back in the shop recording these episodes for you. Now, if you don't know, we are ending our Mercury retrograde pre-shadow phase that usually lasts 2 weeks. And Mercury retrograde begins August 4th, goes to the 28th. Now, I'm not going to get into that today. I have talked about Mercury retrograde before, but this is a really, really, really good time when Mercury retrograde starts, August 4th, to take those 4 weeks, really look at your life. And of course, my main goal in doing this podcast is to help you do that, right? In the 32 years as a therapist, that's just become one of my favorite things to do, is to help people develop insight, develop confidence, and the ability to take leaps of faith. And so also, of course, one of the things that I get to help women do for sure is to learn how to love themselves. I think most of us have a difficult time with that. I think most of us have something inside of us that we reject, that we don't want to face, that we're scared to look at, that we judge as bad or wrong or ugly or imperfect. And I want to talk a bit about this concept of, in order to love yourself, you can't hate this particular thing. And I'll talk about what that thing is. But I want you to use this time as we move through, right, in a few days, to get centered on what you want to learn in this next 4 weeks during Mercury retrograde. What do you want to review? What do you want to reevaluate? What do you want to reassess? What do you want to redesign? It's all about the re's, right? Release, review, anything like that. So be intentional about how you want to use the Mercury retrograde portal, and listen to today's episode. When people are unaware, they tend to see life as happening to them or at them, where they have no hand in the cards they're dealt. I know I felt that many, many, many times in my life. Have you? I wonder. And to some degree, right, they don't have anything conscious to do with the cards they're dealt. Or do they? I say that not to be cheeky, but to say that what each of us experiences throughout our lives is the result of the pre-planned soul contracts and agreements we make before we incarnated into this lifetime. And if you've listened to the previous podcast called Here's What to Do When You've Woken Up to Your Reality, I spoke about how to look at your life once you've decided to face the quality of your life and your life experiences. It can feel really scary as hell, to look at your life with a clear lens. And on the other hand, you already know how your life is, what thoughts you think, and the beliefs you needed to practice to get your life where it is now. So in truth, there really is no need to fear that you'll discover something that you aren't aware of, except for the self-loathing you'll have for not doing the work sooner and for not choosing to see things differently sooner, especially practicing fidelity to self. And to do that, to practice fidelity to self, means that you know yourself so well that you won't ever sacrifice your boundaries or happiness for anything. You come first in your life, and it's not selfish to put yourself first, because that's just how it's got to be in order for you to live a life that feels worthwhile. So today, In keeping with this sentiment, and really today is part two, basically, if you want to think about it, of when you've woken up to your reality, because I want to focus on the opposite of self-loathing. We all do that very well, but let's talk about the opposite. I want to focus on self-love, not in this ethereal, bullshit, meaningless way, but in a very, very real way, so you can understand how to actually achieve that. You see, most of us have something to complain about in our lives and about ourselves, like I talked about before. Women are constantly barraged with images of fit, healthy, pretty women, and we strive to measure up to those conditions that society has forced upon us about what good enough is. And it's fucking insane to measure up to this idea of an ideal woman, because that does not exist. We can't. And even those that are perfect looking, right? What most people consider, oh my gosh, that's perfect looking. They aren't necessarily all put together on the inside, right? So the outside isn't in alignment with the inside. Some of the most famous and beautiful women who should have it all can't keep a relationship to save their lives. They struggle with self-image issues, addiction, failed marriages, and all sorts of human things that those normal people like us struggle with. Yet we women still believe that if we could lose that extra 15 to 100 pounds, or get the facelift, or try the latest weight loss injection, we'll get closer to the perfection that we seek. Well, for men, it's the same thing. Men aren't real men if they cry. And in certain cultures, seeking mental health help means that you're weak. Men should learn to handle everything by themselves, because that's what men should do. And I don't know any man that can really handle everything themselves, right? No woman is perfect, no man is perfect. What about those who don't identify as men or women at all? I mean, society's got some conditions for them. And that is that they find a way to conform and fit into the patriarchal and male-female identity that's long been established as the only acceptable way, when they don't, when they can't. How does anyone learn to love themselves when there's so many rules? It's all kind of fucked up, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree, but that's my opinion. And yet the conditioning is so strong in each and every one of us that it takes grit, stamina, and inner strength to stand in the truth of who you are, even if that means in many cases that you stand alone. I wish I had been taught how to see life differently than I saw it for many decades of my life. Life was a struggle for so long until I realized that I could actually use my life to change my life. You see, in the past, I hated the shitty cards I was dealt, the big, raw, and relentless ones. I became an angry woman. Angry young lady, let me say that. I was resentful, and I just I was shocked at the certain things that happened in my life, and I felt like a victim. I didn't understand it. I wasn't taught to understand it. So I didn't. And I was very angry at myself. I was not peaceful. I hated my life for many years simply because I wasn't told that there was another way to live, that I could actually use my life, that these things had happened, that the hard parts are teachers. I wish someone had told me that. When I realized that if I wanted to love myself, because I was sick and tired of hating myself, that I couldn't hate the experiences that shaped me. I needed to learn to love the shit out of those, of the trials and tribulations, so that I could ultimately come to love myself. So if you're struggling with living a life that you don't want, and you're miserable, or constantly irritable, or resent anyone saying anything to you, that you're just plain pissed off at the cards you've been dealt, well, let me let you in on a little secret, my friend. You could stay pissed off for as long as you want, but it's not going to get you what you want. because nobody wants to stay angry. Nobody wants to be miserable. Nobody wants to be sad. Nobody wants to be worried all the time. People don't want that, but they often feel that. You could decide that you don't want to be a self-hater. This is the other option. Or somebody who hates life just because it's been really tough. And I get it. Everybody's along a spectrum. People have it worse than you. There's no question. And my heart goes out to everyone who's struggling. But just because life is hard doesn't mean you can't change your life. If you use your life, you've got to learn to exploit the shit out of everything that happens in your life, to learn from it, to do what's required of you to change, what you need to change internally to have the life you want. You've got to want that more than the desire to suffer, struggle, be angry, and resentful. Right? There are no other choices. You can't hate the experiences that shaped you if you have any intention of forging a loving relationship with yourself, filled with self-acceptance, maturity, and peace. It's impossible. So wherever it is in your life, maybe it's all of your life, don't know, wherever it is in your life that you are fucking sick and tired of it, right? But you don't do anything to change. I want you to look at that. Look at why it is that you are allowing this unhealthy pattern to continue. Why? What's the secondary gain? So that you can validate your angry feelings? Okay, we just validated them. Yay. But I don't think you really want to feel this way anymore. I don't think you really want to keep this pattern going on in your life. I don't really think that you want to keep making this mistake over and over and over again and privately feeling like a failure, because you're not. So I want you to take some time and figure out why you're so miserable, stagnant, and angry, and use what life is giving you to make something more of yourself. Use it, learn it. It's not enough that you just experience life. It's not enough. Right? When bad things happen, there's always a flip side. It's the law of polarity. There's always an opposite. Always. There are always choices. There are always options. And maybe our mind isn't able to think about what those options are. That's why there are other people in our lives. We talk through things. We ask questions. We get advice. We seek mentorship. To step into your preferred reality, your preferred self, you've got to use your life to help you get there. Trust me, there are people out there who've had it far worse than you, like I said, and who have committed to becoming the best versions of themselves. Like they're not going to tolerate that shit anymore. They aren't any better than you, or more capable than you, or smarter, or more gifted. They've just gotten sick and tired of being in the position that they're in. And they've just figured out the secret that I'm sharing with you today. You can't hate the experiences that shaped you and love your life. It's impossible. You got to use your life, exploit the pain, glean the lessons, learn to eliminate the limiting beliefs, and then take action, the action that you're guided to take, so that you can love yourself finally, unconditionally. And it can feel like that takes a lifetime to do. But the sooner you start, the quicker you'll get there. To love yourself means that you stop hating what's happening to you. That you stop feeling like you're helpless. You are not helpless. Seek your healing. Seek completing the incomplete emotional experiences. Forgive yourself for not knowing any better. But also give yourself a pat on the back for wanting to learn. Be kind to yourself. Respect yourself via your thoughts and actions, and practice fidelity to self always. And I promise you, your life will change in a heartbeat. You're angry and miserable or depressed because you choose to be. Your life is the same because you choose it to be. No one is any better or more entitled to a good life. Everybody is. But you could choose differently for yourself, and in any single moment, decide that you want more for yourself. It's just in a moment, you just decide, I'm done. This is how it's going to be. Life is always going in my favor. And then you affirm, right? I am committed to creating a life that I love. I'm committed to being the happiest version of myself that I can be. I choose to know and believe that when I choose differently, life and the universe supports me. Those feel really good, don't they? So love yourself and love the pain. It's hard. But if you don't say thank you to the hard times, you'll just keep feeling like everything's a hard time. Love yourself. Love the pain. Don't hate it. Don't hate the experiences that shaped you, because that's the only way to grow. I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend, and be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.